A lot to get to today, but we're going to start, not with Kavanaugh, we'll get to that later, but with this New York Times story. And I want to remind you, the New York Times has been so sloppy, so dishonest, so unprofessional over the last many months and years, from the Nikki Haley Curtain Gate scandal, which never existed, to Anonymous and all the rest. So the New York Times has an agenda. You must keep that in mind. Its reporters have an agenda. And I know the media hate when people like me call them out, but they are truly appalling. So let's begin this, you and I, like detectives, to figure out what's going on here, because I think a lot of people, including conservatives, have this upside down. New York Times, Rosenstein suggested he secretly record Trump and discuss 25th Amendment by Adam Goldman and Michael Schmidt. I'm no fan of either of them. The Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, suggested last year that he secretly record President Trump in the White House to expose the chaos consuming the administration, and he discussed recruiting cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment to remove Mr. Trump from office for being unfit. Now, let me tell you what I hear. That sentence is inaccurate. Now, I don't know this. I wasn't in the meeting. I've not seen any memos. But it's my understanding that the 25th Amendment was not raised by Rosenstein, and that this issue of taping secretly the President of the United States was a response, a sarcastic response to McCabe. That Deputy FBI Director McCabe had such a hate on for Trump, he was demanding they open a broad investigation of President Trump. Now, more on this in a minute. Mr. Rosenstein made these suggestions in the spring of 2017 when Mr. Trump's firing of James Comey as FBI director plunged the White House into turmoil. This is the New York Times. These are so-called reporters. Over the ensuing days, the president divulged classified intelligence to Russians in the Oval Office, and revelations emerged that Mr. Trump had asked Mr. Comey to pledge loyalty and end an investigation into a senior aide. This is left-wing kook propaganda. This paragraph should be rejected and dismissed by all serious Americans. But it goes on. Mr. Rosenstein was just 2 weeks into his job. He had begun overseeing the Russia investigation and played a key role in the president's dismissal of Mr. Comey by writing a memo critical of his handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation. But Mr. Rosenstein was caught off guard when Mr. Trump cited the memo in the firing, and he began telling people he feared he had been used. I don't doubt that for a second. But let's continue. Mr. Rosenstein made the remarks about secretly recording Mr. Trump and about the 25th Amendment. Again, that is at issue. In meetings and conversations with other Justice Department and FBI officials, there were apparently 7 individuals in this meeting, including McCabe, Lisa Page, and Rosenstein. And in Lisa Page's notes, just so you know, there's no reference to the 25th Amendment. None. I'll explain. Several people described the episodes, insisting on anonymity to discuss internal deliberations, and this is, of course, the way the media worked today. The people were briefed either on the events themselves, so they were briefed on the events. They weren't firsthand. Or on memos written by FBI officials, including Andrew G. McCabe, then the acting bureau director, that documented Mr. Rosenstein's actions and comments. It's widely understood that this was leaked by the McCabe camp, and it's the McCabe memo. Or was leaked by the special counsel's office, as they have the McCabe memo. And Mr. Weisberg, Andrew Weisberg, the deputy to Mr. Mueller, is a rabid leaker. Rabid leaker. Complete sleazeball. None of Mr. Rosenstein's proposals apparently came to fruition. Well, they didn't come to fruition because he didn't intend them to come to fruition. I'm no special pleader for Rosenstein. You fully know that. I was the first, or among the first, to call this man out, but we're trying to figure out what's taking place here. And a lot of conservatives are falling off the cliff stupidly. Just stay with me. It is now clear how determined he was, Rosenstein, about seeing them through. It's not clear. Though he did tell Mr. McCabe that he might be able to persuade Attorney General Jeff Sessions and John F. Kelly, then the Secretary of Homeland Security, and now the White House Chief of Staff, to mount an effort to invoke the 25th Amendment. The Justice Department, via Mr. Rosenstein, denies this 25th Amendment stuff completely. The extreme suggestions show how Mr. Rosenstein's, now listen to this, state of mind in the disorienting days that followed Mr. Comey's dismissal, sitting in on Mr. Trump's interviews with prospective FBI directors and facing attacks for his role in Comey's firing. Mr. Rosenstein had an up-close view of the tumult. Mr. Rosenstein appeared conflicted, regretful, and emotional, according to people who spoke with him at the time. Isn't that interesting? So it's an attack on Rosenstein. Out of the New York Times. Now, why would they do this? Use your detective's hat. Here we go. Mr. Rosenstein disputed this account. The New York Times' story is inaccurate and factually incorrect, he said in a statement. I will not further comment on a story based on anonymous sources who are obviously biased against the department and are advancing their own personal agenda. But let me be clear about this. Based on my personal dealings with the president, there is no basis to invoke the 25th Amendment. Justice Department spokeswoman also provided a statement from a person who was present when Mr. Rosenstein proposed wearing a wire. The person, who would not be named, acknowledged the remark but said Mr. Rosenstein made it sarcastically. But according to others who described his comments, Mr. Rosenstein not only confirmed that he was serious about the idea, but also followed up by suggesting that FBI officials who were interviewing to be the Bureau's director could be secretly recording Mr. Trump. Mr. McCabe, who was later fired from the FBI, declined to comment. Now that is precious, but we'll go on. His memos have been turned over to the special counsel investigating whether Trump associates conspired with Russia's election interference. That's Mueller, according to a lawyer for Mr. McCabe. Said of those memos remained at the FBI at the time of his departure. In late January 2018, the lawyer, Michael Bromwich, said of his client, he has no knowledge of how any member of the media obtained those memos. Okay, so this was either leaked by McCabe and his people or by Mueller and his people, like Weisberg. Now, what's going on here? Immediately, conservative commentators, TV, radio, have said, Mr. Rosenstein must be fired by the President of the United States immediately. It certainly entered my mind. Did it enter your mind? He must be fired immediately. Now, ladies and gentlemen, why was this leaked? Why was this leaked now? Think it through. Why was this leaked? Why was this leaked now? In the meeting, the aggressor demanding a full-fledged criminal investigation against the President of the United States was not Rosenstein. It was McCabe. And anonymous sources tell me that it was McCabe whose temperature was rising in the meeting, who was insistent, the deputy FBI director. It was McCabe, after Comey was fired, who was demanding a full-fledged criminal investigation. And it was Rosenstein, in response, who sarcastically said, yeah, okay, I'll wear a wire. Next time I'm with the president, we'll interview him and so forth. And yet, they deny the 25th Amendment ever came up. So after the meeting, McCabe writes memos to himself as his former boss, the unethical, dishonest James Comey did. Self-serving memos. He brings up the 25th Amendment. He's furious that the President of the United States fired his friend and boss, Comey. Turns out they're not so friendly right now for different reasons. Now, why is this going on? And there's another fact that's quite interesting that I'll get to in a moment. So why is this going on? I'll tell you one of the reasons I think it's going on is because McCabe and the others want the president now to fire Rosenstein. Not after the election, but now. And they think we are so stupid, we conservatives, that we will be pressing the president immediately based on McCabe's leaks or the leaks of his self-serving memo to the disgusting New York Times. They think we're going to take the bait. They think we're going to bite the hook and demand that the president immediately fire Rosenstein. After all, look what the New York Times says, which of course can't be trusted. Look what the McCabe memo says, which of course can't be trusted. So the president must fire Rosenstein immediately, you see. Immediately, especially before the primary, the midterm elections, which would ensure that you would elect 70 more Democrats and ensure the president's impeachment. This is how conniving these people are. Why didn't they leak this 5 months ago? Why didn't they leak this 10 months ago? They leaked it now, 45 days before the midterm elections. Because they know the President of the United States may well fire Sessions. He may well fire Rosenstein. He may well fire others. Hillary Clinton's even mentioned it. She's not particularly bright. But they want the president to fire Rosenstein now. To blow up the entire Kavanaugh hearings. To have Republicans running for the hills. Create complete chaos for the Republicans and among the Republicans in the midterm elections, even worse that currently exist. That's what's going on here. But I want to mention something else that isn't even on anybody else's radar. This also tells me why Rod Rosenstein appointed a special counsel. He should never have appointed a special counsel. He violated his own department rules. There was no criminal predicate, but he was being pressed by the deputy director of the FBI. Investigate criminal, investigate criminal, investigate criminal. And Rosenstein, being the coward that he is, he just decided, look, I don't want my fingerprints all over this stuff. I got the deputy director of the FBI pounding the hell out of me that there's a criminal pretext here. I don't know what it is. I got Schumer and the Democrats demanding that I appoint a special counsel. I've only been here a few weeks. You know what? I'll appoint a special counsel. I'll wash my hands. And that's what he did. And that's what he did. Now we know why he did it. This guy McCabe appears to have been at the middle of everything. With Stroke, with Page, with Comey, and with Rosenstein. In any event, the special counsel's office, Andrew Weissman, even has more of a reason to leak this information. They have absolutely nothing on the President of the United States. They're trying to push their agenda. They are there for one reason and one reason only, to write the report in hopes of impeaching the president with a Democrat Congress. So the special counsel's office, listen to me clearly on this, forget about the others, just listen to me, would like nothing more than the President of the United States to fire Rosenstein, to claim that he is truly obstructing an investigation, trying to influence their investigation, and then write it up as effectively as in Watergate, a Saturday night massacre of sorts. In other words, it's a setup of the president. And some of the damn fools in the media who claim to be conservatives are falling for it, hook, line, and sinker. The New York Times. Why would the New York Times do this? The New York Times an ally of the President of the United States? Of course not. Of course not. Does the New York Times tell the truth? Ask Nikki Haley. Ask the survivors of the Holocaust. Lisa Page is in the meeting. She never writes a thing about the 25th Amendment. People at the Justice Department say in the meeting, there were 7 of them, including Rosenstein and McCabe, the 25th Amendment never came up. And it was McCabe who was pressing for a criminal investigation against the President of the United States. It's Rosenstein, the coward, who buckled to it. But it's McCabe. It's his memo. The special counsel has it. They leaked it now. Think about these things, because you got to try and get in the shoes of these very devious people. What are they trying to get at here? They're trying to get at the president all the time. They're trying to destroy his administration all the time. Many of you are not going to agree with me, but the president must not fire Rosenstein, certainly not prior to the midterm election. That's what they want. That's what they want. That's what they want. This is coming either from the special counsel's office or McCabe or both. I'll be right back. You know, the special counsel's office has to be laughing about now. They have absolutely nothing on Trump. They even concede they really can't question him about obstruction of justice. They can't bring charges against a sitting president. His lawyers appear to be very, very sharp. They're not going to let the special counsel manufacture a crime against the President of the United States through trickery and deception. And they're desperate. They are desperate. As is McCabe, desperate. He could be charged one day with offenses involving his lying to investigators within the Justice Department. They would like nothing more than to create a whirlwind of controversy around this president. Those of you who claim to support the President of the United States and yet demand that he fire Rosenstein now, before the midterm election, you are his worst enemy. You are his worst enemy. You will play right into the game here. You will ensure a massive Democrat election during the midterm elections. You will ensure the president's impeachment. I'm convinced this is a setup. This is exactly why they used the pages of the New York Times and these 2 clown reporters, Adam Goldman and Michael Schmidt. I'm convinced of it, because nothing else makes any sense. Use your own logic. Why would the New York Times run with this story? Why would this leak occur now? Why would it occur now? Why didn't this happen 5 months ago, 10 months ago? Why did it occur now? See, part of the giveaway is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 5th paragraph where they trash Rosenstein. They never trashed Rosenstein before. They never trashed him before. Why would the New York Times trash Rosenstein? Because they want you folks to read it and say, yeah, that Rosenstein, we already know Rosenstein's a coward. We already have a number of issues with Rosenstein. I've been talking about them since day one. But why is the New York Times doing this all of a sudden? Why this information all of a sudden? Because they want the President of the United States to act now, so they can then trash him. That's why they want to take him out. You got to remember the end game here. This is what they want. They want the Democrats to sweep into office in the House and the Senate. They want the President of the United States to face impeachment. They want constant controversy swirling around the President of the United States. It doesn't right now in this article. But if he does, as some people are advising him in the media, that's enough. Fire Rosenstein. We've had enough. Perfect. You ever read these detective novels? I don't read them. But you ever watch movies, detective movies, that sort of thing? That's exactly how these things are set up. Ever watch like an Ocean's 8 or an Ocean's 11, that sort of thing? You ever watch these whodunit movies or gone to a whodunit play? Wow, I never thought of that. Look how they set that. That's the kind of mindset you have to have when you look at an article like this. You can't just walk into a buzzsaw. Look at this. Look at this. Okay, look at it. Now, does this make sense to you? Why would the New York Times run with this story, which was obviously leaked in the New York Times from the McCabe memo that McCabe has and that the special counsel have, talking about Rosenstein in such negative terms? Why would they be doing that all of a sudden? Because they're desperate. Their investigation has gone nowhere. The president didn't do anything. And yet all over TV, even my favorite cable network, Rod Rosenstein suggested that he wear a wire, brought up the 25th Amendment. They deny bringing up the 25th Amendment. They say the rest of it was sarcastic because McCabe kept pressing and pressing and pressing for a criminal investigation. McCabe right now, who's under criminal investigation for lying, is a desperate man. The special counsel, despite all the media building up the special oh my God, these guys, they're like 10-foot tall Vikings. No, they're not. They're little weasels. They're little weasels. They have nothing on this president. Nothing. Because he didn't do anything. So they want to get him on this quote-unquote process crime. Even though they can't charge him, they could write it up with a big headline and a report for impeachment. And we'll be on defense. We'll be on our heels. There'll be this massive blue wave election. The President of the United States will be charged by the House of Representatives. You notice how giddy the reporters are today? They're giddy about this. And look at Schumer. You might say, Schumer, President better not use this as a pretext to fire Rosenstein. When Schumer says something like that, why does he say that? They would be thrilled if the president would fire Rosenstein right now, right this minute. And they know that if Schumer says that, the president will be upset that Schumer's trying to tell him what to do. It's all a setup. Rosenstein should go. He can go after the election, if that's what the president wants to do. The election's 45 days away. This is a complete setup. The New York Times, McCabe, and or the special counsel's office, the timing means everything. It's everything. I want you to think back and remember, President of the United States is elected. James Comey is hated by the left. Hated by the media. Hated by the Democrats in Congress. What does the president do? He fires Comey. Now Comey is loved by the left, the media, and the Democrats. And they use him to attack the President of the United States. They use his firing as a claim of obstruction of justice, as absurd as that is. They turned on a dime to turn the entire thing around. Comey was hated, now Comey's an angel. Now Comey is the greatest man who's ever served in public office. He's celebrated on the interview shows. He's celebrated on the late night shows. He's celebrated by the media. The man they hated just seconds before is now celebrated. Well, what the hell do you think would happen here? What do you think would happen here? Look at what Rosenstein did. Look at what he did. Oh, my God. He was prepared to wear a wire. He talked about the 25th Amendment, and he was serious. He was going to consult with cabinet members. Well, he did. Because apparently he never brought up the 25th Amendment, even though McCabe may have put it in his memo, in his self-serving memo, to use another day. He's sort of the Omarosa of the FBI, just like Comey. Sit in a meeting with the guy, they leave, they take self-serving notes, they're recording, true sleazeballs. Now, this is not in any respect a defense of Rosenstein. Please do not misunderstand. Rosenstein buckled and appointed a special counsel without any kind of criminal requisite, violated the Department of Justice rules. He's conflicted in that he recommended that Comey be fired. So he can't really be a witness and in charge of an investigation at the same time, but there you have it. But I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about this. This. And all through the media, including on our favorite cable channel, it's just being regurgitated over and over again. Reading it line by line out of the New York Times, like somehow the New York Times is the Bible. The New York Times is paper that belongs at the bottom of a bird cage. They have an agenda. Their agenda in the 30s and 40s was to cover up the Holocaust, and their agenda today is to cover up the worst political scandal in American history, involving federal law enforcement, involving federal intelligence agencies, involving the FISA court, involving the Russians. We've never seen anything like this in American history. Never. But the media are in on it because most of the sources have leaked to the media, and they're protecting their sources, and they all have the same agenda, to take out Trump. And the New York Times is number one in trying to take out Trump. Don't let them feed you arguments and then regurgitate them, and then they turn around and use them to take out the President of the United States. Because that's exactly what this is. Step back, read it, think about it. Let's take a few calls and see what you folks are thinking out there. Let us call Frank, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the great WPHT. Go.
Hi, Mark. Thank you for taking my call. Mark, I think you are spot on. I think that this is certainly a setup. I mean, last week, the New York Times printed an op-ed from an unknown source or an unknown author. All right, that was just a smear of Trump. And what really worries me is there is clearly collusion between the Democrat Party, the media establishment, social media as well. And I don't know if the Democrat Party's henchmen are the media, or if the media's henchmen are the Democrat Party. But what really scares me, Mark, is these people have power. And these people are in positions of influence. And I mean, the fact that they are playing these games that are so clearly a game is almost more frightening to me about that than it even is about them going after Trump. Because, look, Trump is going to come and go. But these folks, and this, whatever we want to call it, deep state, is for real. And that's what for me, the big picture concern is what is going on here.
You know, what you've said so concisely is so right on. And you're right. The progressive statists have conquered one institution after another. You've got this massive administrative state that we've talked about on this program since I've been on this program, and I've written about in several of my books. It is the permanent government. That's why we have this fight right now on the Supreme Court, which I'll get to next hour. They believe they have a right to a permanent control over the Supreme Court. So in the end, for the left, elections don't matter. You elect a president like Trump, you elect Republicans in the House and the Senate. As feckless as the House and Senate has been, they have no intention of handing the baton of governance over to conservatives or Republicans. They have no intention of doing it whatsoever. So they have built this administrative state. They have used the courts to nationalize numerous issues, to have the quote-unquote final say on political, social, and cultural issues. And this has taken 100 years to get here. And this is why I talk about a Convention of States in Article 5, because honestly, Frank, I don't know what else to do about it.
They are implementing a permanent, like you say, bureaucracy. And without the Convention of the States, I mean, look what they are doing to somebody like Judge Kavanaugh, who in a heartbeat, and I know I'm getting ahead of you, but in a heartbeat had 65 females who knew him well enough to put their names on a piece of paper to say, no way, this guy. We also have the Democrat Party, and I don't want to get too far afield, but look what Keith Ellison, the number 2, what he's doing, and everybody knows it. And
by the way, did you see the poll among Democrats in Minnesota who said only 5% said they cared?
And that doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me, especially among the left, because to them, morality there is no objective morality. What's wrong? See, Keith Ellison is the right kind of abuser.
What do you do?
What do you do?
What do you do in your life? What do you do?
So, Mark, I talked to you about 2 years ago, and I was a school principal, and you told me not to give my name because there's not many of us. I'm actually a teacher. I left the administration and went back to the classroom.
Well, you're terrific, and your students are very lucky. I could tell you're a pretty sharp dude.
Thanks, Mark. I try, man. I'm just, you know what? I'm concerned about the country. And that really is my deep concern. And I see what's going on, and I see how we, the people, have really been marginalized by this permanent state. And I'm grateful for Trump. I hope Trump doesn't fall.
And you know what? And as far as Trump goes, it is so important that we have an individual in the White House right now who's trying to shake this up. And this is why he's under attack. He's trying to shake it up. And in trying to shake it up, he's doing so many things that principled conservatives should be embracing. You don't have to embrace everything, but he's doing so many things, many more things than a Jeb Bush would have done or Kasich would have done or that whole list of candidates. And we really should be celebrating his efforts. Instead, he's fighting these people on the left. He's fighting a rear guard action against never-Trumpers. He is under assault by the criminal system for absolutely no reason. It's just really rather shocking. Frank, I want to thank you for your call, and I wish you the best. Oh, what a teacher, huh? John, Baltimore, Maryland, XM Satellite. Go.
Hey, Mark. It's great to talk to you again, brother.
Thank you, John.
Mark, I've been in law enforcement for 15 years, and I think all this is BS. Smoke and mirrors. This New York Times story about Rosenstein wearing a wire is BS. The leaking thing is BS. It's kind of like Kane's mutiny. They want Trump to think that his own people are attacking him, that his own people are after him. They want him to fire Jeff Sessions. They want him to fire Rosenstein. They would love it, just like you said. But if he doesn't take the bait and he stays strong, I think he's going to be able to survive this.
And here's the thing, John. There can be a time to remove these people and put in whomever he wants. But they want him to do it now. They want him to do it now so they can take him down. It's a complete setup. I know exactly what's going on here. So do you. So does Frank. All right, John, thanks for your call, man. Be safe out there. Frank, a police officer. We'll be right back. All over TV. All over TV. This may be the tipping point for the president, you know. Now he may really bring the hammer down on Rosenstein and fire him. Fire him now. Now, again, let's circle back here because it's worth repeating. People listen 1 hour, they may not be here another hour. The New York Times, the Holocaust-denying New York Times, is not to be believed any more than the anonymous op-ed, which was a setup to attack the president. This is their goal. You need to understand the group mentality at the New York Times and the vast majority of these so-called newsrooms is to take out the president. You must read these articles and listen to these news reports with that context in mind. Why would the New York Times publish a leak like this from McCabe and or the special counsel about Rosenstein, one of their heroes? One of their heroes. The man to whom Mueller purportedly reports. The man who appointed Mueller, the special counsel. Why would they report this about Rosenstein in this meeting of 7? that he said, in essence, that he should be wired. Secretly record the President of the United States, and maybe we ought to recruit cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment. Well, first of all, he, through surrogates, denies that he ever mentioned the 25th Amendment at all. And with respect to the wire, the Justice Department said that was a sarcastic comment. And even the professor from George Washington, Turley, has fallen for this because he's saying, you don't joke about stuff like this. The department didn't say he joked. It said he was sarcastic. Now, why would he be sarcastic in saying this? Because it turns out, ladies and gentlemen, that Mr. McCabe was in the meeting. He was the deputy director of the FBI. At that point, he was the acting director of the FBI, and he was demanding a criminal investigation be launched against the President of the United States. Demanding it. And it was Rosenstein who was reluctant at that time. And then Rosenstein eventually capitulated in his own way by appointing a special counsel in violation of the Department of Justice rules. I didn't say he wasn't a coward, and I didn't say he wasn't unethical because of these conflicts. I'm saying you must read this piece and try and figure out what's going on. And what's going on is they want Donald Trump to fire Rosenstein. The special counsel wants him to fire Rosenstein. Listen to me. Mr. McCabe wants him to fire Rosenstein. The Democrats want him to fire Rosenstein before the midterm election. They have nothing on the president right now. And then they want to see hell rain down on him as a result of this. They want to see Republicans running for re-election running away from him. They want to see absolute chaos in the midterm elections. They want to see the Democrats take 70, 80 seats in the House of Representatives, take huge numbers of seats in the United States Senate, all intended to take out Trump. That's their goal before the midterm election, for the president to fire Rosenstein. This is an attempt to get him to do it. Many conservative commentators have already fallen for this. Hey, just get rid of him. My God, you read the New York Times? Yes. Well, look what he said. Look what's going on here. A 25th Amendment. He should wear a wire. You can't have a deputy attorney general in defiance like this. Needs to fire him not today, but yesterday. Yeah. Do it. You have the power to do it. Do it, Mr. President. Clean it up. No. Don't do it, Mr. President. You want to do it, you do it after the election. You don't do it now. They have nothing on you. I don't care what they write in their impeachment report. We'll have to deal with it. They have nothing on you. This is a setup. The special counsel's office, Andy Weissman in particular, the hack deputy there, wants the president to fire Mueller's boss. Not because they have anything particularly to complain about, but they have nothing on the president, and they want to accuse him of obstruction. They want to see a Saturday Night Massacre scenario. They want constant references to Watergate. They want all that. They want it for the next 45 days in the lead up to the election. They want the Democrat base all fired up. They want the media all fired up, all engines going, all cylinders, maximum speed. That's what they want. This isn't even about Rosenstein. That's my point. It's about Trump. That's why the New York Times is doing this. They're not doing it because they dislike Rosenstein. They have loved Rosenstein up to this point. They've defended Rosenstein. They've defended the Department of Justice. They've defended the FBI. And why shouldn't they? That's all their sources. But this one's different. When you see, ladies and gentlemen, when you see a stampede in one direction, you better stop and pay attention to what's going on here. It's like investing. Everybody's moving that way. You probably should move another way. So we have a stampede now. with the liberals goading the president, Schumer, today. He better not fire Rosenstein. He better not. Meaning he better fire Rosenstein. That'll sure as hell help us. And then you have people on our side who haven't really thought this through very well. They're knee-jerk. They're knee-jerk. The Kavanaugh case and this case really have a lot in common when you think about it. They're all about politics. They're all about getting Trump. They're all about advancing the power of the left. I don't need lectures from Kirsten Gillibrand about women. I have a mother. I have a wife. I have a daughter. I have a granddaughter. I have a stepdaughter. I have a mother-in-law. Plenty of women in my life to talk to. She's not one of them. She's a left-wing, hateful hack who had no problem walking hand in hand with Bill Clinton as recently as 2 years ago when he was raising money for her. We don't need lectures from Democrats about women. When Ted Kennedy led that party for decades, we don't need lectures from Democrats about women, given what took place in the Oval Office under John Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, and Bill Clinton. We don't need lectures from Democrats about women who ignored Juanita Broderick and Paula Jones and Kathleen Willey, but worse, trashed them, and then nominated the woman who helped trash them, the sexual predator's wife, Hillary Clinton. Now, we don't need lectures from these people. I'll be right back. Here's Katie Tur, a nobody, an MSNBC host, and may I say, because apparently this is what you need to say, she's white. But she purports to be a woman. Now, I don't know what she has self-identified as. Cut one, go.
It's pretty... If this is true, if the White House sees this as credible in any way, this is bad news, I imagine, for Rod Rosenstein.
Now, let's stop. This is the New York Times piece. But you know what? That's why I'm saying they're interchangeable. Go ahead.
For his tenure, I imagine the president would want to get rid of him. He already does want to get rid of him. But this would give him justification for doing so.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, it would. So MSNBC wants Trump to fire Rosenstein. The New York Times wants Trump to fire Rosenstein. Think it through. That's what they want. Douglas Brinkley on CNN, a partisan historian. Cut two, go.
And the really stunning revelation, which seems to me to be sourced, that he was considering wearing a wire to essentially go in and secretly tape the president of the United States. Usually the Justice Department or FBI will do that with mafia kingpins or drug dealers. And here he was on the verge of doing it with Donald Trump.
They actually did it in the Trump campaign, or may have. Go ahead.
The net effect of all this is to kind of play into Trump's narrative that there's a deep state, people are out to get me, the witch hunt of the Mueller investigation.
Which leads to the conclusion, of course, from the New York Times piece, to fire Rosenstein. Right? Now, we also have this miscreant, Michael Cohen, who's pled guilty to felonies, who will lose his law license. And now he is built up by the media and the left as a very noble man. Just ask Lanny Davis. Now, Michael Cohen is to be believed, even though he's a felon, even though he will be disbarred, even though he violated attorney-client privilege and confidentiality. And all of you who have seen lawyers and talked to lawyers, that's what you want from a lawyer, isn't it? Now that he's speaking like a stuck pig, no doubt self-serving. He's out there now, you see, and he's the linchpin. All of a sudden, we now have our Russia collusion guy. He's gonna link it all together. Well, why do we need Michael Cohen to do it? I thought it was obvious that the Trump campaign was colluding with the Russians. I thought it was obvious the Trump family was colluding with the Russians. I thought it was obvious. Isn't that why we got a special counsel in the first place? No, you don't understand. No, it's Michael Cohen. Mr. Taxicab Battalion guy. He's got the goods on Trump. Him. I thought it was Gates. No. I thought it was Papadopoulos. No. I thought it was Manafort. No. It's Cohen. He knows. Mr. Fix-It. How do we know this? Because Adam Schiff tells us. Cut 3, go.
They have no idea what Michael Cohen has to say. And Michael Cohen could certainly shed light on the issue of collusion or conspiracy if they were dangling a pardon, if the president reached out to him to try to get him to align his story.
So here we have Adam Schiff testifying for Michael Cohen. Adam Schiff is very excited. He's wetting himself because he believes he's going to be the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, and he's raring to go. He opposed every investigation, undermined every investigation, but now he's very excited. Orgasmic. Go ahead.
On either the hush money payments or something else. He may have evidence of witness tampering or obstruction of justice.
Listen to this. Listen to this guy. Just blurting things out. And, of course, this is for CNN. This is real news. It's nothing but gossip, nothing but propaganda. But it's treated as news. Go ahead.
And then again, Michael Cohen may have to say, look, I can't help you on this, but I can tell you about something else that you're not aware of that you should be aware of. Mm-hmm. And there's 10 years of that Michael Cohen could share with the special counsel. Bob Mueller may choose to farm that out to the state of New York or the Southern District of New York or anywhere else. But Michael Cohen is in a position to offer a great deal to special counsel.
So Michael Cohen is the new James Comey, you see. They hated him. They trashed him. Now they love him. Man of nobility and integrity. And he might do this, and he might do that, and he might do that, and he might do this, and he might do this. Adam Schiff, you are the biggest lowlife of lowlives in politics. You really are. And there are so many. But you, pal, you're the lowest snake in the bunch. The lowest snake in the bunch. He just is. And we bounce back and forth because these are overlapping. This is the case with the Senate Judiciary Committee and this other stuff is a part of the government and certainly a political party that has gone rogue. That has gone rogue. That has gone Soviet. All right, let me take a call. Let us go to Patricia, Tucson, Arizona, the great KNST. Go.
Hi, Mark. I've never called in before. I'm a retired person, so I have a lot of time to follow this very closely.
Yeah.
And you really struck a note with me tonight when you talked about your theory that they want Trump to fire Rosenstein. And I totally agree with you because I thought to myself, one of those texts of Strzok's, it was right after McCabe was in charge because Comey was fired and Christopher Wray wasn't in charge yet. He wasn't confirmed. And one of the texts said, we've got to do this while Andy is still in charge.
Wow, that is a great point.
Well, I thought it would corroborate your theory because I think I was one of those people that was so annoyed with Rosenstein thinking, I don't know why he hasn't fired him already. But I really agree with your point.
And by the way, I'm not saying he shouldn't, just not now.
Exactly, not till after the election.
Well, let me tell you something. You're very, very sharp. You did put it together. And I want to thank you for your call very, very much. And I want to congratulate Tucker Carlson and his producers. As you know, in the first hour of this program, I explained what I thought was happening with the New York Times, and he repeated it almost word for word at 8 p.m. tonight. So at least we're on the same sheet of music here. This happens to this show all the time, just so you know. It's no brag, it's just fact. You can check it yourself. Listen to my first hour and then listen to that. But since I'm the one who said it, certainly originally, I'll just repeat it one more time, so you don't have to waste your time watching that. And it is that the New York Times piece with McCabe and Rosenstein is a setup. They want Trump to fire Rosenstein now before the midterm elections. They have nothing on the President of the United States. I believe the leak either came from the special counsel or from McCabe, or both, who were trying to goad the president into firing Rosenstein. They like Rosenstein. They've never attacked him before in the pages of the New York Times. Matter of fact, they defend him against the Republicans in the House and so forth. But here they kind of trash him in paragraph 5 of the article. They regurgitate what McCabe put in his self-serving memo. And the entire purpose is to goad the President of the United States into firing Rosenstein. And you've had a number of commentators say exactly that. Now, why would the New York Times want the President of the United States to fire Rosenstein? To create what they believe would be an impeachable offense, to create absolute chaos before the midterm elections, to see the Republicans run in 15 different directions, to upset even those races that may well be Republican victories, and to create a massive landslide for the Democrats. This is a setup. That's exactly what it is. I'm not a special pleader for Rosenstein. Quite the opposite. Those issues about Rosenstein are quite separate from what this New York Times piece is about. Rosenstein has denied this. The Justice Department said he was being sarcastic. Professor Turley misinterpreted that to be a joke. They didn't say he made a joke. He was being sarcastic. Why? Because he was being pressured by none other than Andrew McCabe, then the acting director of the FBI, to launch a criminal investigation against the president. Rosenstein apparently was resisting. He eventually buckled. And then that fateful appointment of a special counsel in violation of the Department of Justice regulations and his own conflict of interest as he recommended the firing of Comey. And then on the footnote part, the 25th Amendment, they flat out deny that ever came up. Well, it's in Mr. McCabe's memo. Well, Mr. McCabe knew he was writing these memos to cover his ass. The same reason Comey wrote memos, too. These are called self-serving memos. That's what they are. They mean nothing. And interesting, Lisa Page's notes turned over to Congress and others has no reference to the 25th Amendment at all, and she was one of 7 people in the meeting. McCabe, Page, Rosenstein, and 4 others. And another person who was in the meeting said the 25th Amendment never came up. And in fact, Rosenstein was being sarcastic. Again, not a defense of Rosenstein in the least. Every time the New York Times goes to print, it has as its purpose to destroy this president. And you must keep that in mind when you're reading their articles, like the anonymous op-ed. They never had an anonymous op-ed before that I'm aware of. But it was trashing the president, raising questions about his mental stability, chaos in the administration. They'll grab onto anything. They'll grab onto Omarosa. They'll grab onto a porn star and her lawyer. They'll grab onto whatever they need to grab onto. And they'll also concoct things. They'll attack people around the president and his administration, like Nikki Haley. The great crime on the curtains in her office. Problem was she didn't order the curtains in her office. The Obama administration did. Oh, excuse us. We don't want to trash Obama. We apologize. So this piece in the New York Times, the Holocaust-denying New York Times, and the criminally investigated Mr. McCabe, you got to read this with your eyes wide open, understand what's being done here, what the purpose of this is. They think you're a bunch of rubes. They think the president is simply an emotional wreck who will lash out. We have some conservatives, unfortunately, who have taken the hook. And I explained this all within the first 10 or 15 minutes of the first hour on this program. And now it's been repeated almost verbatim on Fox. And I want to congratulate the host for having excellent ears. Because this is what's going on here. And I would encourage the backbenchers all over the country to take another look at this rather than fall for the trap. The New York Times is out to destroy this president like the Washington Post, CNN, MSNBC, and all the rest of them. They don't hide the fact, even though they pretend to be journalists, news organizations. They are what they are. They can pretend to be... Look, they can self-identify as news organizations, but their genitalia tells us otherwise. They are a bunch of you-know-whats. I won't say it, Mr. Producer, even though I could legally. I won't say it.